Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vancha kalpadrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you very much for the kind opportunity to render some service by way of discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, the king of all scriptures. Also thank Rukmini Mataji for always giving me an opportunity, and wish her well in Vrindavan. She needs a break, as we all do. So we're going to be reading from Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 42. Narayanam namaskritam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswati vyasa tato jaye udiraye Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavati sevaya. Bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti bhavati naistake. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. We do the word for word and then line by line. Text 42. Namas ta ashisham isha manave karanatmane namo dharmaya brihate krishnaya kunta medhashe purushaya puranaya shankya yogeshvaraya cha. Namasta ashisham misha manave karanatmane namo dharmaya brihate krishnaya kunta medhashe purushaya puranaya shankya yogeshvaraya cha. Namasta ashisham isha manave karanatmane namo dharmaya brihate krishnaya kunta medasha purushaya puranaya sankhya yogeshvaraya cha. Namasta ashishamisha manave karanatmane namo dharmaya brihate krishnaya kunta medashe purushaya puranaya shankya yogeshvaraya cha. Namasta ashishamisha manave karanatmane namo dharmaya brihate krishnaya kunta medashe purushaya puranaya shankya yogeshvaraya cha. Namasta ashishamisha manave karanatmane namo dharmaya brihate krishnaya kunta medase purushaya puranaya Shankya Yogeshwaraya Cha. Namasta Shishamisha Manave Karanatmane. Namo Dharmaya Brihate Krishnaya Kunta Medhashe Purushaya Puranaya Shankya Yogeshwaraya Cha. Panditji, you want to try? Namasta Shishamesha Manave Karanatmane. Namo Dharmaya Brihate Krishnaya Kunta Medashe Purushaya Puranaya Shankya Yogeshwaraya Cha. Namasta Shishamesha Manave Karanatmane. Namo Dharmaya Brihate Krishnaya Kunta Medashe Purushaya Puranaya Shankya Yogeshwaraya Cha. Namasta Shishamisha Manave Karanatmane. Namo Dharmaya Brihate Krishnaya Kunta Medashe Purushaya Puranaya Shankya Yogeshwaraya Cha. Nama. Offering obeisances. Te, unto you, Ashisham Isha, O topmost of all bestowers of benediction. Manave, unto the Supreme Mind or Supreme Manu. Karana Atmane, the Supreme Cause of all causes. Namaha, offering obeisances. Dharmaya, unto one who knows the best of all religion. Brihate, the greatest. Krishnaya, unto Krishna. Akunta Medase, unto one whose brain activity is never checked. Purushaya, the Supreme Person. Puranaya, the oldest of the old. Shankya Yoga Ishvaraya, the master of the principles of Sankhya Yoga. Cha, and. The translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It's a long purport. My dear Lord, you are the topmost of all bestowers of all benediction, the oldest and supreme enjoyer amongst all enjoyers. You are the master of all the world's metaphysical philosophy, for you are the supreme cause of all causes, Lord Krishna. You are the greatest of all religious principles, the supreme mind, and you have a brain which is never checked by any condition. Therefore I repeatedly offer my obeisances unto you. The purport of commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The words Krishnaya Akunta Medase are significant in this verse. Modern scientists have stopped their brain work by discovering the theory of uncertainty. But factually, for a living being, there cannot be any brain activity which is not checked by time and space limitations. A living entity is called Anu, an atomic particle of the Supreme Soul, and therefore his brain is also atomic. It cannot accommodate unlimited knowledge. This does not mean, however, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has a limited brain. What Krishna says and does is not limited by time and space. In Bhagavad Gita 7:26, the Lord says, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that's happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. Krishna knows everything, but one cannot know Krishna without being favored by Him. Thus, for Krishna and His representative, there is no question of a theory of uncertainty. Discuss that in a while. What Krishna says is all perfect and certain and is applicable to the past, present, and the future. Nor is there any uncertainty for one who knows exactly what Krishna says. The Krishna consciousness movement is based on Bhagavad Gita as it is, as spoken by Lord Krishna. And for those who engage in this movement, there is no question of uncertainty. Lord Krishna is also addressed herein as Asisam Isha. The great saintly persons, sages and demigods, are able to offer benedictions to ordinary living entities, but they are in turn benedicted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without being benedicted by Krishna, one cannot offer benedictions to anyone else. The word Manave, meaning unto the Supreme Manu, is also significant. The Supreme Manu in Vedic literature is Swayambhuva Manu, who is an incarnation of Krishna. All the Manus are empowered incarnations of Krishna, Manvantara avatar. There are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma, 420 in 1 month, 5,040 in 1 year, and 504,000 Manus in the lifetime of Brahma. Since all the Manus are directors of human society, ultimately Krishna is the supreme director of human society. In another sense, the word Manave indicates the perfection of all kinds of mantras. Right? So 2 meanings of Manave. The mantra delivers the conditioned soul from his bondage. So simply by chanting the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one can gain deliverance from any condition. Karana Atmane, Karanatmane. Everything has a cause. The theory of chance is repudiated in this verse. Because everything has its cause, there's no question of chance. Because so-called philosophers and scientists are unable to find the real cause, they foolishly say that everything happens by chance. In Brahma Samhita, Krishna is described as the cause of all causes. Therefore, he is addressed herein as Karanatmane. Karan, cause. His very personality is the original cause of everything, the root of everything, and the seed of everything. As described in the Vedanta Sutra 112, Janmadhyasya yata anvayad. Oh, Janmadhyasya Yata. The Absolute Truth is the supreme cause of all emanations. The word Sankhya Yogeshvaraya is also significant herein. For Krishna is described in Bhagavad Gita as Yogeshvara, the master of all mystic powers. Without possessing inconceivable mystic powers, one cannot be accepted as God. In this age of Kali, those who have a little fragmental portion of mystic power claim to be God, but such pseudo-gods can only be accepted as fools. For only Krishna is the Supreme Person who possesses all mystic and yoga perfections. The Sankhya Yoga system, popular at the present moment, was propounded by the atheist Kapila. But the original Sankhya Yoga system was propounded by an incarnation of Krishna, also named Kapila, the son of Devahuti. Similarly, Dattatreya, another incarnation of Krishna, also explained the Sankhya Yoga system. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all Sankhya Yoga systems and mystic yoga powers. The word Purushaya, Puranaya, also worthy of special attention. In Brahma Samhita, Krishna is accepted as the Adi Purush, the original person or the original enjoyer. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is accepted as Purana Purusha, the oldest person. Although he is the oldest of all personalities, he is also the youngest of all, or Nava Yovanama. Another significant word is Dharmaya. Since Krishna is the original propounder of all kinds of religious principles, it is said, Dharman tu shakshad bhagavat pranitam. Bhagavatam 6.3.19. No one can introduce a new type of religion, for religion is already there, having been established by Lord Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna informs us of the original Dharma and asks us to give up all kinds of religious principles. The real Dharma is surrender unto Him. In the Mahabharata it is also said, Ye cha veda vido vipra, ye cha shadyatma vido janaha, devadanti mahatmanam, Krishnam dharmam sanatanam. The purport is one who has studied the Vedas perfectly, who is a perfect Vipra or knower of the Vedas, who knows what spiritual life actually is, speaks about Krishna, the Supreme Person, as one's Sanatan Dharma. Lord Shiva therefore teaches us the principles of Sanatan Dharma. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. So it's a wonderful purport and verse. And to place it in context, in Canto 4, we are hearing the conversation between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura. So Panditji, before you go, we want to just wish Panditji for his birthday. I heard it's his birthday. Hare Krishna. All the best to you, Panditji. You come back for the aarti at 12:30. So some of the devotees will see you. Hare Krishna. Okay, so he told me it's his birthday today, so we want to wish you. It's a very appropriate purport, as you are in the priestly order and you are ministering to people in the community, you're guiding them. So here we are hearing in this purport about how Lord Shiva moves the prachetas from ritualistic practice to pure devotional service. So at some stage, perhaps you would like to read this. Hare Krishna. So in context, we're hearing how Maitreya Rishi is speaking to Vidura, because Vidura on his pilgrimage encounters Maitreya Rishi and he surrenders to him, accepts him as his spiritual master. And then Vidura, the conversation is happening. So we see from the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj all the way to Prithu, King Prithu, now to Prachina Bharhi or Bharishat, that entire lineage, and his producing the prachetas. So that lineage is coming. We're following that. And very detailed genealogy is given in this purport. So sometimes, people have the tendency to question about, what is your history, how is this a figment of imagination, etc. But you can see that the historical genealogy is given and it can be traced back, right? This is situated in the Satyuga, because here we see that the prachetas are performing austerities for 10,000 years. Up until this point, in the previous chapter we see how King Prithu, he now gives up his throne in his old age. This is the way of the Vedic culture, that after one's duty is done, particularly in household life, and if a king had to rule, then he would give up his life, his duties, having done with all of his duties, and he then focuses on completing his self-realization. So King Prithu and Archi, his wife, they retired to the forest and performed austerities and goes back to Godhead, Prabhupada says in the purport. Goes back to the spiritual world. There it's described as Vaikuntha. But it's all part of Godhead. So back to Godhead. Very instructive for all of us in our fag end of life, as Prabhupada refers to, about accepting this process of Krishna consciousness. So now we are seeing the lineage, and then King Prachina Bharhi, he instructs his sons to marry. Now why? Because all of them are Prajapatis. They are being instructed by Lord Brahma to populate the world. So he instructs them, and they go perform austerities, and on that journey, they encounter this very, very beautiful abode, as you would have heard in the previous verses. An abode that's filled with water and color and birds and flowers and trees and beautiful celestial sounds. Something we'd like people try in this world, to retire to some kind of cove in a bay and overlooking the ocean and build a house there, overlooking it. Want to enjoy all that, until the next tidal wave comes. Everything goes to... So we can see that the material world is actually a reflection of the spiritual world. The beauty that we see here is a reflection of the spiritual world. The trees, the birds, the spiritual, the natural sounds, etc. All that we are hankering for, because our material lives are so fraught with difficulties and distress, and it's so unnatural that we try to seek some kind of safe haven by taking a week off from our mundane jobs and going for a holiday and enjoying nature, etc. Because, we are hankering for this as part of our natural propensity, because we've had the experience of being in such beautiful environments as the spirit soul. So now we are reflecting that consciousness through matter onto matter and trying to expect that we'll enjoy here. It's a very incompatible situation. So they encounter, and Lord Shiva appears to guide them. It's very rare for Lord Shiva to personally take charge of guiding the living entities. For those who are worshippers of Lord Shiva, they often have the concept that the spiritual world or the abode is impersonal. At the end of life, they worship Lord Shiva. A lot of the Gyanis do. So they feel that they will merge with some kind of Brahma Jyoti. So we see in these purports, in most purports, wherever Srila Prabhupada gets a chance of smashing the Mayavadis, he will do so. He does so. Because he's establishing the highest principle of bhakti is a personal relationship, an exchange of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, if those who are worshipping Lord Shiva, they should read this. This chapter called Chanting the Song of Lord Shiva is known as Rudra Gita, the Song of Lord Shiva, in glorification of the Supreme Lord. There are many Gitas in Srimad Bhagavatam. We know the famous Gopi Gita, sung by the Gopi. There's Uddhav Gita. There's also Bhishma's glorification, Lord Bhishma Gita. So different Gitas songs, and now we have Rudra Gita or Shiva Gita. And the Lord Shiva, through his glorification, is setting the highest example. He is known as Vaishnavanam Yatam Shambhu, the greatest of all devotees. So I'd like to offer that prayer to Lord Shiva to get his blessing so that we can speak also on what he is speaking. And this is from Bhagavatam 12, 13, 16. Nama Ganam Yatang Ganga Devanam Achyutayata Vaishnavanam Yatam Shambhu Purananam Idam Tata. Just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, Lord Achyuta, the Supreme, and Lord Shiva, the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam, the greatest of all Puranas. So that is where that line comes from, Srimad Bhagavatam. The verse, if you want to remember, it's 12, 13, 16. Vaishnavanam Yatam Shambhu. It's being described as the greatest of all devotees. So for those who are worshipping Lord Shiva and those who are impersonalists, they should take heed that the abode of Lord Shiva, it's described in Bhagavatam that the Prachetas came up to the abode of Lord Shiva at the foot of the Himalayas. And being filled with such variety, there is no impersonalism there. One can see it's filled with variety. So immediately that argument falls away. When the devotees or those who are serious about practicing Krishna consciousness, as they progress, the devotees of the Lord take charge of them. Even in your particular experience and interaction. When you see somebody comes to the temple, they're coming for a little while, one or twice, and they're very respectful to the devotees, then you reach out to them, you inquire for them, and you speak to them, and you encourage them a little bit further. Come take prasadam. Have you read Srila Prabhupada's books? Come for the Sunday love feast, or we're having Kirtan Durban there near your home. Come there, we can meet. Everything you do, you start to give them the chance. You start to give them, you encourage and you facilitate them further. So the devotees of the Lord are very merciful, because they are carrying this bhakti in their heart and they're sharing it with others. Even if you do something little for them, but it encourages them. So we see here Lord Shiva, he personally came forward to the Prachetas. And he also glorifies them in the previous verse. He glorifies them that they are devotees of the Lord. So therefore he's pleased with them. And he begins to instruct them. Another great devotee who does that is Narad Muni. It is explained that somewhere in our spiritual journey, we will encounter Narad Muni, and he'll give us further instructions for our spiritual development. So as we are progressing through the spiritual sky waves, we are traversing, Narad Muni will come. So imagine that encounter, what it'll be like. Sometimes I think when I'm reading Srimad Bhagavatam, like what it is to have been sitting amongst those sages, just listening. You know, for me, aspiring to enter into Vrindavan and so on, it's such an esoteric thought, because I know my disqualifications. But just to know this great sages, 80,000 of them sitting and listening to Bhagavatam, can we even get a chance to maybe be there at least, you know, sit and listen there. And it's explained that as you progress in your spiritual life, if you're not successful, then you enter into the upper planetary systems. We know there are different levels, 7 heavenly planets. And there's also the planet of where the great sages are. You can be elevated to that planet, and then by their association, you can progress even further. So such great opportunities are there. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada makes some very important points, but technical and scientific at the same time. The word Krishnaya Akunta Medasya is significant in this verse. Modern scientists have stopped their brain work by discovering the theory of uncertainty. So this theory of uncertainty was generated in the 1990s, or 1900s actually, and it became known as quantum physics. So I'm not a physicist. So my understanding is a layman's idea of quantum physics. But at the same time, but the point is being made that in quantum physics, it explains that everything is uncertain. When we experience here as through our vision, we are very much used to a macroscopic world. When we see a car is parked, it's either parked or it's moving. Somebody is either sitting or they... So we are used to that kind of macroscopic experience. But the quantum physicists, they work at the level of microscopic, electrons and so on. And they are saying in that world, when they are studying electrons, they can never know for certain the position of an electron. Simply put, that it's when they study the electron in very detail, then they cannot know its position, whether it's stable, whether it's moving. So it's a physical principle. I can try and explain it by an analogy, just to make the point. Like a hummingbird. Hummingbird is flapping his wings a few 1,000 times a minute to stay hovering. And if you take a photograph with a very high resolution camera and a high shutter speed, you can actually get that in one frame his wing is out. But having taken that photograph, you have not understood completely the hummingbird, because you only understood it in one frame. But he's still flapping thousands of times. And if you take it at a slow motion, then you'll see slow shutter speed, then you'll see the wings. But in each case, it's a different situation. And when you try to understand that situation, you cannot know this one for certain. And when you try to understand it, the flapping wings, you cannot know that. For similarly, so at the microscopic level, there's this theory of uncertainty. And the world is considered, the physicists say, it's uncertain. So this theory of uncertainty, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about here, is saying for us, the scientists, they have stopped their brain work. In other words, they're so absorbed in this kind of idea of theory of uncertainty that they're not thinking deeply about the certainties. They're absorbed in their theories. But factually, for a living being, there cannot be any brain activity that is not checked by time and space limitations. So for us, as a living entity who is an atomic particle of the Supreme Lord, our brain is atomic. It cannot accommodate unlimited knowledge. But from the perspective of Krishna, everything is certain. What is that verse? Mata parataram na anyat kinchid asti dharanjaya. Mai sarvamidam putam sutta managana iva. Krishna is telling Arjuna, O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. I think it's Bhagavad Gita 7:7. So the scientists are trying to understand, even at that microscopic level, they're trying to understand the world, producing so many theories around it, etc. However, we understand by the words of Krishna that there is this certainty, and that certainty is Krishna. Although it's unseen, like in a string of pearls, you only see the pearls, and you think it's all being held together. But somebody knows, that the knowledgeable person knows that the thread is holding it all together. And that thread is Krishna. So the entire world is, the entire universe, everything is happening by Krishna. Therefore Krishna tells Arjuna, and is cited in the purport, O Arjuna, as a supreme personality of Godhead, I know everything that's happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. Krishna knows everything. But one cannot know Krishna without being favored by him. So, favored by him means also favored by his devotees. So here Lord Shiva is personally taking charge of instructing the prachetas in spiritual life. And this is a favor. So prachetas were involved in ritualistic activities. But Lord Shiva is explaining to them, and is glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the verse we hear Lord Shiva saying, my dear Lord. Who is addressing? He's addressing Krishna. My dear Lord, you are the topmost of all bestowers of benediction. You are the oldest and supreme enjoyer of all enjoyers. Adi Purush, Puranaya, oldest. You are the master of all the world's metaphysical philosophy. So there are so many philosophers, so many like these are producing this theory of uncertainty. But Krishna is the master of all of these philosophers. There will be so many speculations on our part and in terms of philosophies. But Krishna is the master of the world's metaphysical philosophy. Why? Because he is the supreme cause of all causes. He is the cause of all causes. Lord Krishna, you are the greatest of all religious principles, the supreme mind, and you have a brain which is never checked by any condition. While we are limited and our brains are checked by time and age and space limitations, Krishna's brain is unchecked by that. So it is a type of kind of a critique of the scientists, right, who are speculating about all of these ideas and proposing these theories of uncertainty. There's nothing uncertain. Everything is certain because it is all by Krishna's plan and arrangements that things are happening. So, Lord Krishna, you are the greatest of all religious principles, the supreme mind, and you have a brain that's never checked. And then what is Lord Shiva doing then? I repeatedly offer my obeisances unto you. So from verse 33 all up to verse 68, I think it is in this Bhagavatam, is Rudra Gita. Lord Shiva is glorifying the Supreme Lord. And he's making the prachetas hear this glorification of the Supreme Lord. So he is moving them from ritualism to realization of the Supreme Lord. It is necessary that the rulers of the universe and rulers of nations, they understand this knowledge. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is spoken to the sun god, and from him to Ikshvaku, all the way Krishna speaks it to Arjuna. In that way, the rulers of society have been given this most sublime knowledge by which to execute their devotees, their duties in devotion. In the last few minutes of what we have, Srila Prabhupada then explains also in the purport about the Manus and how the Manus are incarnations of Krishna and they are the universal rulers. They are also executing their duties based on Krishna consciousness. There are 14 Manus in one day of Lord Brahma. So at the moment we are in Vaishvata Manu, the 7th Manu. We are halfway in the day of Lord Brahma. There's 14, so we are in the 7th Manu at the moment. So and what are Manus? Manus are like, let's take an analogy. Like if you see factories that work 24 hours, they have shifts. So maybe 3 shifts. So the first shift, the manager will come with all his workers. Then the second shift, that manager will go away with all his workers. The next manager will come with his workers. And the third shift, the next manager. So the Manus are these managers with their workers, because every time a Manu comes, all the demigods get replaced as well, Indra, etc. Because these are positions in the universe. So the Manu is the manager for a particular time interval in the day of Lord Brahma. So the Manus, so there are so many, 504,000 Manus in the lifetime of Brahma. All the Manus are directors of human society. So with the Manus then comes the original scriptures called Manusmriti. And they are the Dharma Shastras. They give direction to mankind as to what to do and what not to do. So Srila Prabhupada then speaks about in the second last paragraph, Karanat Mane, Everything has a cause. The theory of chance is repudiated in this verse. So again, now Prabhupada speaks about another theory, the theory of chance, or chance, as the Westerners say. So what is the theory of chance? Anybody knows? That the world has come about by chance. A random type of event happened and suddenly we are here, that Big Bang theory and all of that. So that's the other theory that Prabhupada is speaking about. So you can see in the purport is the philosophers, because scientists are philosophers. That's what PhD means, Doctor of Philosophy. You're supposed to be qualified somehow. Well, we know better than that. So the theory of chance, Karanatmane, is being spoken about here. The theory of chance is repudiated in this verse. How is it repudiated? Because Lord Shiva says to Krishna, you are the supreme cause of all causes. It's the same thing like Lord Brahma, another great personality, does. In Brahma Samhita we see. He starts that by the famous line, Ishvara Parama Krishna. You know, say, Sachinananda Vigraha. Anadir, Adir Govinda. Sarva Karana Karanam. Karanatmane. The cause of all causes. There's one thing that impressed me about reading these scriptures, as well as convinced me to become a little more committed. My commitment is like a continuum, right? So I'm somewhere. There's lots to go. But is that the consistency amongst the scriptures. It cannot be written by man if it's so. It's apaurisheya. It's divine. Therefore, the consistency, when you hear what Lord Brahma says, what Lord Shiva says, what's in the other Veda, what's in Bhagavad Gita, what's in Bhagavatam, what's in Brihanradya Purana, Kalishantarana Upanishad, Brahma Samhita. When you read all of this and you see the consistency, this cannot be done by the mind of a man, because they would have flopped up somewhere. So, Krishna, everything has a cause. So the theory of cause is rejected. There's no question of chance, because so-called philosophers and scientists are unable to find the real cause. They foolishly say everything happens by chance. In Brahma Samhita, Krishna is described as the cause of all causes. Therefore, he is addressed here as Karanatmane. So we know Krishna is also known as, in his expansion, as Karanadakshayi Vishnu. He lies in the ocean of cause. Karanadakshayi, that Vishnu, he is the cause of this material nature. So we have to be very mindful as devotees of the position of Lord Shiva, who is described in Bhagavatam also as non-different from Lord Shiva, from Lord Krishna. And when we encounter Lord Shiva, we should be fully respectful. We should be able to pray to Lord Shiva. This one, look, Brahma Samhita 5:45. Shiram yata dadi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahe tata pritagashti hetu ya shambhutam api tata samupayati karyad govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahma is saying, just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its cause, namely milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Sambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. The purport is given by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, whose eloquence boggles the mind. But he says, the real nature of Shambhu, the presiding deity of Mahesh Dham, is described. Shambhu is not a second Godhead other than Krishna. Those who entertain such discriminating sentiment commit a great offense against the Supreme Lord. The supremacy of Shambhu is subservient to that of Govinda. Hence, they're not really different from each other. The non-distinction is established by the fact that just as milk treated with acid turns into curd, so Godhead becomes a subservient when He Himself attains a distinct personality by the addition of a particular element of adulteration. This personality has no independent initiative. In other words, using an analogy for us to understand, you apply an acid to milk, lemon juice, it becomes curd. But it's not different from the milk. But the curd can't turn back into the milk. So similarly, the Lord Shiva is a transformation of Krishna, and for the purposes of destruction as well as for the purposes of being the first progeniting act in the universe by which the living entities get injected into the material nature. So we can conclude on that understanding that when Karana Dakshaya Vishnu becomes agitated by the restless jivas who want to leave the spiritual world, then he awakes from his yoga nidra and he glances towards his consort Sri Ramadevi, who's always with him. The glance of Karana Dakshaya Vishnu, the glance becomes Shambhu. It's transformed into Shambhu. And Ramadevi, her shadow potency becomes Durga. So the first act of progeniting act takes place between the glance, Shambhu and Durga. And that's how the living entities get injected into. So for those who refer to Lord Shiva as Bhagavan, yes, He's Bhagavan. He's Bhagavan of the cosmic manifestation. And His Shakti is Srimati Durga Devi. So when we are serious, and if we offer our praise to Lord Shiva in that way, then Lord Shiva will instruct you, and you'll hear this Rudra Gita, the glorification of the Supreme Lord. So all glories to Vaishnavanam Yatam Shambhu, Lord Shiva, the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna. And may we also pray to Him that just as He instructed the Prachetas, that we may develop sufficient bhakti to be able to access the instructions of such great personalities, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Narad Muni, and in a more immediate context, that the great devotees of the Lord in our environment will be very merciful to us and instruct us further in our spiritual life. So we'll stop there. It's 8:30 something. Perhaps there may be some comment or question from anybody. Madhurya? Gitanjali? Anything? Vidyapati? All right, so it'll continue, this Rudra Geet. And the point that we should understand is that when the personalities speak this, they give a benediction. That's called the Falastuti. So you'll hear whenever the prayers are beginning, then the speaker will say, whoever hears this will attain back to Godhead, etc. So Lord Shiva also gives that benediction. So if we hear Rudra Gita, we chant it and so on, we will also, with the sincerity, then we will also derive the benefit of progressing in our spiritual life, because the Falastuti, Lord Shiva gives that. Even Maitreya Rishi is giving. Whoever hears the story of King Prithu will also attain Godhead. The Falastuti. Fal means fruit. The stuti is that expression. So the fruit of hearing that glorification. Falastuti. Jai Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. I should move that to the next verse.